Hello and welcome to Fitzdares World of Sport in association with our new sponsors, Boodles. Check them out at boodles.com. They really are champions of British sport. It's episode 5. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Adrian Clark, and alongside me in the studio today are the always excellent Lola Roberts and Henry Beasley, plus top football writer Tom Williams. Coming up on today's pod. Okay, it's not quite the FA Cup final most neutrals were dreaming of at the quarter-final stage, but an underdog success still remains a possibility, doesn't it? The odds tell us this weekend's US PGA at Quail Hollow is a 2-horse race. So genuinely, is it worth anyone else entering the second major of the season? And just 2 miles away from Pope Leo's doorstep at the Vatican, can Sinner shine and set himself up for French Open glory? Oh yes, we'll also talk about a proper do-or-die Europa League final and let you know what else to look out for in the sporting world this week, which, let me tell you, is jam-packed with great events. If you're over 18 and love your sport like we do, then well done. You've landed in exactly the right place. If you also have an interest in sports betting, this could definitely be the podcast for you. Our mantra is very simple. Never gamble more than you can shrug off losing if you accidentally put your wallet in the washing machine. Remember, 18 plus. Please bet responsibly. And remember, gambleaware.org. Welcome along, guys. Good to see you all. Tom, first of all, welcome on board.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, excellent. I've got to ask you before we get cracking. We'll get to this in more detail a little bit later, but what is the rest of Europe playing at, allowing the ramshackle Spurs and Manchester United sides to get to the Europa League final? I mean, what's happened here?
There can be no more damning indictment of the general level of European football than the fact that we've got the worst Manchester United team in 50 years going up against the worst Tottenham Hotspur team in, 30-odd years in the Europa League final. And it's remarkable. I mean, the Champions League has been incredible, and you feel like the cream has really risen to the top. And in the Europa League, something else has risen to the top, but it doesn't really feel like the cream. But I mean, another demonstration of the strength of English football, I guess, that you can have these two historic clubs that have had such underwhelming seasons and yet still get to one of the major European finals.
I think Europa League's kind of suffered quite a lot for not having the Champions League teams dropping back in. I think all the talk about the change of formatting, we didn't really consider that. But like last year's finalists were an unbeaten Leverkusen side, and then Atalanta with genius Gasperini at the helm. It's just not been quite the same this year.
Yeah, it's a pub cup, isn't it, this time around?
Let's not even get started on the conference, Henry.
Before we get cracking, you enjoy Liverpool-Arsenal, Lola?
Well, I was having a brilliant time for the whole of the first half, bouncing around, singing the Chiesa song. He's got more songs than he's made Premier League appearances, Chiesa. But losing that 2-goal lead wound me up, and then I was even more wound up when I saw your tweets, Clarky.
What's wrong with him?
Well, I actually printed them out because I'm that person.
And you weren't the only Liverpool fan to take exception either, lest we forget.
So at 9:08 p.m. on May the 11th...
Timestamps really make it.
Don't know if you'd had a beer or something by this point, but was genuinely stunned at Liverpool fans' treatment of Trent Alexander-Arnold today. Thought it was disgusting. Yep. A brilliant player for them over many years, one of their own. What's so wrong with the footballer fancying a new experience?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay, so...
Hang on, right?
Personally, couldn't agree more with Clarky there. I think he cost you nothing. He's a boyhood Liverpool fan. He's won it all. Is he not allowed to go and enjoy pastures near Madrid, Lola?
But that's just a very reductive way of putting it, because I just want to address a few things first in the tweet. So, disgusting, the treatment. That is, it's an insightful sort of word. It's going to create a reaction. I know you did have a lot of blowback from the Red Mafia on Twitter, but
doesn't sound like a Liverpool fan.
But don't throw stones from glass houses, Clarky. We, as Arsenal Football Club, not the very place where you booed your greatest living manager. You booed poor Emmanuel Eboué, so he had to be subbed off when he'd come on as a substitute. I think it's the hypocrisy of it with Trent that has really got Liverpool fans' backs up. He did all this.
Doesn't take a lot, does it? Then, to be fair.
I got to say, I didn't boo anyone, and I hated it when I saw Xhaka get booed and booed. I'm not saying that Liverpool are only people that have booed a player. I'm just saying that it's not a crime to run down to honour a contract in full, by the way, and then decide to have a new experience. I don't think that's worthy of being booed. He does not owe Liverpool a transfer fee. Why on earth would any footballer say, oh yeah, I'll sign a new contract so that Liverpool can get £100 million for me, knowing that then is going to probably cost me at least £20 million in bonuses and wages, and maybe actually cost me the move that I dream of. So why would he do it?
Are you telling me that, all because people have said, loyalty in football's a myth. And as a fan, I really, really don't want to believe that's true. All the badge tapping, all the pointing at the pitch, all of this means more. And Trent, more so than any other player we've had in recent history, has done that. It means more winning for Liverpool. I want to be captain. My boyhood dream is to play for this club. So I think it's the hypocrisy. That is what's really, really incited this kind of toxic energy. This isn't just another player. This is the local boy who said this was what he wanted to be doing forever. So I just want to ask you,
both.
But how would you feel if it was Bukayo Saka? I think you'd feel pretty bad.
I wouldn't like it, but I wouldn't boo it. There you go. Right, let's crack on. I enjoyed that, though. I enjoyed it.
Punchy start, yeah.
Right, before we get cracking in earnest, looking ahead to this week's sporting action. No pressure on you at all here, Tom, but last week Cornelius absolutely nailed it with his tips for Chester. Sensational stuff, I've got to say. Unbelievable, really, from Cornelius Lysaght. Henry, if I'd stuck a tenner on that treble that he correctly predicted at Chester, what would I walked away with?
So £10 on the treble would have returned £853.13. So not bad for a Friday afternoon's work, right?
Yeah, that would have been a sensation. As you can see from my attire today, I didn't win. I haven't got any new clobber. But hopefully some of you out there follow Cornelius in. On to this week's action we go now. And we have to start with football. It's FA Cup final weekend, and one of the sides involved has never won a major trophy, which I'd say definitely makes this showpiece extra interesting this year. Oliver Glasner's Crystal Palace are currently rated 7-2 shots with Fitzdares to win inside 90 minutes, with City 8-11 favourites. If you think we're heading to extra time, the draw is available at 14-5. It is a good final, isn't it, on paper, Tom? It's not quite the dream one where we've got two teams that haven't won anything in donkey's years. But yeah, what do you make the prices there? Do you think City are worthy favourites?
I'm not sure I'd have them quite as strong favourites as the bookies suggest. There's been this temptation with City over the second half of the season to think that they're back, because they obviously fell off a cliff in spectacular fashion and in a way that I think we're still trying to come to terms with. And every time they string 2 or 3 good results together, the temptation to say, oh, they're back. They've got over that blip. And, the City that we've got to know and love / fear over the last 5, 6, 7 years are back. But looking at their performances, I don't see that. I think there's still a fragility there. And I think this final, more than anything, obviously, you've got two teams with very different backgrounds in terms of their history, in terms of, recent success, trophies, etc. But you've got a fantastic clash of styles. One team that defines itself by having the ball, by needing to have the ball, Manchester City, against one of the most effective counter-attacking units we've seen in recent years. You look at Palace's run in the FA Cup so far. In recent rounds, 3-0 against Fulham in the quarterfinals, 3-0 against Aston Villa in the semi-finals. They had 29% of possession in each of those games. Right. And that's probably a similar level of possession as they're going to have on Saturday. We know that City like to dominate matches in terms of having the ball, but Palace have shown that they can beat pretty much anyone, even when they don't have the ball. So I think it makes them a particularly dangerous opponent for Manchester City.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Crystal Palace have actually scored twice against City in 5 of their last 6 meetings. So this style that you talk about there is definitely suited to playing against Pep Guardiola's side. They haven't won any of those games, unfortunately, Crystal Palace, but they've come mighty close. I mean, do you fancy them, Lola?
I do, and I'm trying to convince myself that it's a head over heart decision. but I think their style of play, as you've said, not having the ball, they're pretty comfortable to not have the ball. But I also think City's system you know, people have said there's the whole is our City back narrative, but this to me feels like a plaster. And I think the kind of smoking gun there is Nico Gonzalez. They spent 60 million euros on him in January and he's not starting. And then yesterday we hear they're in talks for Tiani Reinders. So they obviously aren't happy with that central midfield position. And that would suggest that next season they're probably going to go back to playing a 4-3-3 rather than this box midfield. The other thing is you've got two fullbacks, Mateus Nunes at right back, who's a midfielder turned right back, and Nico O'Reilly, who's come through their academy as an attacking midfielder. It just doesn't quite feel, you know, it feels like they've sort of moved the pieces around on the board to make it work to the end of this season, but it's not necessarily something they're going to stick with.
Yeah, and Tom, on Pep, I thought his team selection was diabolical actually for the game at Southampton. It was a really weird starting 11 because he had too many sort of defensive players, not enough quick players in a match where they knew they'd have a lot of the ball. Years ago, the one thing you could throw at Pep was that he overthinks it and that sometimes he makes weird decisions in big games. Do you think we're almost coming back around towards that? Because I've got no idea who's going to pick this weekend.
I think what's been interesting in terms of Guardiola during this period has been his inability to come up with solutions. And his genius as a coach is that he comes up with very creative solutions to problems. He thinks of something. He thinks of some kind of outlandish tactical maneuver that no one else has seen coming. And it gets his team out of whatever mini slump they're in. And this season, right from the beginning of the sort of, crisis of results, he's been trying that. He's been making little changes and putting players in different positions, and none of it has worked. And as Lola was saying, that the most recent run of form has been built on the back of this quite unsatisfying fudge with attacking players playing at full-back. As a consequence of Nico O'Reilly being at left-back, you've got Josko Gvardiol, who's one of Europe's great attacking left-backs, playing at centre-back. Haaland's out of form. He is a centre-back, but he is, so well-suited to that role. And when he's playing left-back, he gets into so many great attacking positions. When he's playing centre-back, he can't do that. You've got so many players having underwhelming seasons. Obviously Erling Haaland has been injured and is now back, but he has not been scoring with the frequency that we've been used to with him in his City career to date. Phil Foden's form has just fallen off a cliff, and it does just feel like the whole thing is being held together by sellotape. And I don't feel like Guardiola has really got to grips with the fundamental issues. They tried to correct some of them in January. And some of the recruits came in very quickly, made quite a good impression. Kusanov, Gonzalez, they've both now disappeared from the starting 11. Yeah. Marmoush is no longer a guaranteed starter.
Though,
he is good. He is good. I find it hard to call.
Does Marmoush start, Henry? Does Marmoush start ahead of Erling Haaland here, because he didn't look fully fit, did he, last weekend? I mean, Marmoush has to play, doesn't he? He's been their most dangerous player, isn't he?
Yeah,
last couple of
I would agree with that. I think he made a really good impression, didn't he, when he came in? I remember actually the first game. I remember watching them against Chelsea at the Etihad, and City were actually pretty blunt throughout the whole game, and he really was the shining light. They did obviously win the game 3-1, but Haaland's got to start, hasn't he? It's an FA Cup final. He's
quite a good sub to have up your sleeve.
Yeah, exactly. But they can both start, can't they? I'd be amazed if Haaland doesn't start down the middle there. Come on, it's an FA Cup final. This is his time now.
He hasn't scored. I don't think he's ever scored at Wembley, Haaland. He's never scored at Wembley.
Okay, interesting. Eze has.
Yeah.
Would he get into City side, guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah. There aren't many sides. Yeah, there aren't many sides he wouldn't get into, are there?
The pace. The pace, because City lack pace. That's been widely accepted this season. I don't know if Jeremy Doku will be anywhere near the starting lineup.
Who knows? This is what I was saying earlier. He's just got so many.
I think Palace fans will boo him if they thought he was leaving. For me, he gets in any team in the Premier League.
He's one of those players who was simultaneously very effective and very good, and also just very pleasing to watch. And even little silly inconsequential things like the fact that his new goal celebration is to just stand stock still and not smile. All over it. And I think he's the kind of player who can really hurt City as well. In particular, you look at the most recent league fixture at the Etihad. City ended up winning 5-2, but Palace went 2-0 up. And Eze had a goal ruled out for offside. That was pretty close. And if City go 3-0 down, I'm not sure they come back to win that game. So he's shown he can hurt City. We talked about City's issues in the fullback areas. That was where Palace had all their joy in that league game at the Etihad. with the wing backs attacking on both sides with Eze and Ismail Assar, and I suspect that's where they'll probably look to have joy again on Saturday.
And they scored, by the way, from set pieces in both matches, home and away against Manchester City. No team in the Premier League has scored more set piece goals than Palace this season.
What?
16, yeah. No one scored more.
Not Arsenal.
No.
Set piece FC.
Set piece FC.
You're gonna paint over that Nicholas Jova mural now.
Absolutely not.
I think, sorry, Clark. I think just on that, I think the both teams to score market, it's 4-6 for both teams to score. I think
it's nailed on, right?
If you're looking for a bet builder on the FA Cup final, I think that's a selection you probably want to put in there. Tom obviously mentioned that game at the Etihad. City were on the ropes, weren't they? 2-0 down. I think Ismail Assar missed a good chance too, as well, to put them 3-0 up. I do think if you are, like I say, looking for a bet builder, the both teams to score should probably be going in there at 4-6.
Yeah, no, definitely. They haven't kept a clean sheet against anyone in the top 9, Crystal Palace this season. So, I think there's 17 games without a clean sheet. So City are almost certain to score.
Yeah.
But based on the evidence of recent matches between these two, so Palace. So, look, I think we're in for a decent final. Next Wednesday in Bilbao is the Europa League final between Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur. Let's cover it a little bit here, shall we? I mean, both teams have absolutely stunk the place out domestically, haven't they? But the winner will play Champions League football. It will save their season. The loser will probably, it will be.
They'll be expelled from the Premier League.
Yeah, it will be their worst season ever in the Premier League. Tom, has ever there been a game where victory and defeat meant more to each manager in particular? I mean, this is a proper crossroads match, right?
Yeah, it is, but at the same time it isn't, in the sense that I don't think either manager's fate will be massively altered by the outcome of the game.
Okay.
I think win or lose, Ruben Amorim is going to still be at Old Trafford come the start of next season. And I think win or lose, Postecoglou is probably on his way out.
Poch.
Let go, Adrian, let go.
But you really think that he'll stay?
Amorim? Yeah, I think so, because he arrived during the season. He didn't want to come when he ended up, and he said so himself. And he's brought it up, in recent press conferences. He's expressed a degree of not outright regret, but he's kind of he's referred to the fact that when the offer was made to him in the autumn, his initial reaction was, well, no, I don't want to start. I don't want to take on a job of this magnitude in the middle of the season. He was told, well, it's either now or never. And so that's why he took the decision. United have clearly backed him in a very big way. They didn't really manage to bring anyone in apart from Patrick Dorgu in January, but they will be going after Amorim-style players in the summer. I'm sure those moves will already be underway. Those targets will have already been identified. So, he is still in the early throes. I mean, I think United would like to think he's still in the early throes of what they hope will ultimately be a spectacular turnaround. So, I suspect that win or lose, he's still going to be there. It would obviously help if they do win it.
I actually did want to touch on the manager situation, Tom, because as a Chelsea fan, I find it bizarre that Man United are currently sat in 16th and they're backing their manager unequivocally. I mean, Chelsea fans were booing Enzo Maresca for not winning 3 games in a row or whatever.
Absolutely disgraceful.
You shouldn't boo your own, should you?
But I do think Ange is probably going to go, isn't he? Almost regardless of the outcome here, I think. I think Daniel Levy and Spurs are probably already prepping for life after Ange. Is that fair to say?
I don't think he'll stay.
Regardless of the result in Bilbao.
I think he's quite good enough, I've got to be honest. I like the initial upturn and the football was good, but their away record is awful.
So easy to play against, aren't they?
Is it 20 defeats this season?
They lost 20 league games.
Absolutely abysmal, isn't it, for Spurs to do that? I mean, if we're talking about combined 11s, and I've got one. I will chuck that out there in a minute. If we're talking combined 11s, who would you have in the dugout? Because for me, it would take half a split second for me to say Amorim's a better manager than Postecoglou.
We haven't seen that much of it, though, have we? Sorry,
with better players, if you put... people might say that if you had Pep's Barcelona team, any manager could win with them. But I reckon Ange, with a really technically sound, amazing group of players, I think he wins. Because people wouldn't be able to get the ball off them the way they play.
He needs that Barcelona team.
Yeah, basically. But so I don't know if that's much of a compliment to him. But I do think, and not much of a compliment to the Spurs players, which we'll get onto when we do our combined 11. But I do think that Ange has got to front and take the blame for the fact that they haven't been able to adapt their style of play. Like, it's appalling. Some of the matches, I know I always talk about Liverpool, and I'm sorry, but at Anfield in the second leg of the Carabao Cup final, when they really, really needed a trophy, and this was a gettable trophy for them, they rocked up with a 1-0 lead, and there was, they kind of tried to play a low block, but just couldn't play a low block. And I think the players have got to take responsibility at some point. The players have got to take a bit of responsibility.
Rolling over, didn't they?
Yeah.
And we've seen that so many times this season in the bigger games, particularly away from home.
It's not just Ange.
No, it's not.
Right. I would rather watch a Postecoglou team than an Amorim team.
Yeah.
From what I've seen of Amorim at United, okay, Amorim Sporting were an absolute machine, but we haven't seen that yet. At United.
What does a goal look like for Ruben Amorim's Man United? Genuinely, that's just a question.
And this is the fascinating thing about the Amorim experiment or the Amorim era. Why has it been so bad for so long, and why has it not got better? Like, there are small signs of improvement. Like, there are times I think they are more tactically cohesive than they were when he first came in, and I think they generally look a bit more solid. But you think about the instant impacts that some managers have had in recent years. You go back to Thomas Tuchel when he arrived at Chelsea.
The example I was
It took
gonna
him
use,
about 3 training sessions to turn them around, and they ended up winning the Champions
Henry.
League. Okay, he
Those were
came
the good
in.
old days.
He came into a club that was in a much healthier position. But we've seen coaches come in recent years and have a much quicker impact. And Amorim falls back on the fact that he's having to introduce players to a brand new system. Tuchel came into Chelsea and changed the system, went to back 3. Antonio Conte did the same in 2016.
This is why I just find it a bit odd that he's not under any pressure really at all.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting. I think there's a good manager, but he's been too stubborn in the 3-4-2-1. Right, my combined 11 of the players available to play at the weekend. The reason I'm doing this is Gary Neville, I think for clicks, has said that only one Man United player will get in. Bruno Fernandes will get into the Spurs team. Nonsense. Here's my team. I have to go for Cario in goal. At the back, Porro for sure at right back. I don't like Jed Spence too much, or Destiny Udogie particularly, so I'm going Dorgu there, and I've gone Van der Ven with Maguire, who's been heroic in this run. In central midfield, I don't think either team has very many good players. I've got Mainu and Bentancur, and then I've got Diallo, Bruno and Son in behind Dominic Solanke. So there's a mixture. There's 5 United, 6 Spurs. Am I off the mark there? What are we saying?
I probably go Dallo over Dorgu, even though Dallo generally plays on the right. It's a shame. It is a big shame for Spurs, but just in general that both Maddison and Kulusevski are out for Tottenham, because I think they would both be strong contenders for replacing the combined 11. Yeah. I think as exciting as Amad Diallo is, and I think he's wonderful, I think you'd probably have Kulusevski over him. You'd have Fernandes over Maddison, but in an ideal world, you'd pair Maddison and Fernandes. Obviously, Postecoglou would do that without a second thought, and every game would finish in a 5-4 defeat.
Anyone else? Any more reference?
I actually do quite like Spence. I know you said you didn't like him. I think he's quite solid.
Oh, he's had a solid season. Just something about him where I feel he doesn't have the concentration. Or he's too relaxed.
Error prone maybe a little bit as well at times.
I'm with Gary Neville. This is not just an anti-Man United thing. Like, because I think you're right. Gary probably did say that for clicks, and there's a whole conversation to be had about Sky Sports punditry at the moment.
Interesting. Look, it's going to be a good game. Is it going to be a good game? I don't know actually. The odds with Fitzdares: Tottenham 9-5 outsiders, Manchester United 6-4 favourites, 23-10 the draw. For me, it's Manchester United to win the game, even though Spurs have beaten them numerous times this season. Just very quickly, I just want one word. I want a winner. Let's go round the room. Henry.
Spurs.
United.
Spurs.
Okay, split down the middle. I like it.
I mean, instinctively you want to say neither, but obviously
that's quite tricky. I didn't want you to go to me first.
That's not an option.
Right, we've got a break there and we'll come back